Welcome to my book collection 2024, books I've curated and collected over the past couple years. I will show you all of my favorite books. I mostly have all of my books over here. So I'm so excited to show you all these books. A lot of these books I've read and some books I haven't read. They're still on my TBR list, so let's get into it. Okay, so we're gonna start off the bookshelf. I have a few different pieces, so this first piece I have is from Mexico. I got it at a vending shop on the streets, street vendors in Mexico City, and it was so beautiful. This I got from Costa Rica. You blow on it, the edge, so I got it in Manuel Antonio, Costa Rica. So, and then I have a smoke ashtray with a few different things in it. So I have, oh my gosh, this pin for Earth Day. And then I have a few seashells. So in here, they're so pretty. So you can see the seashells. So cute. Okay, so we're gonna start off with my first row here. This row of books, I didn't really curate, like I didn't put these in alphabetical order, so they're just kind of however which way. So we'll start over here. So this is The Children of Blood and Bone. It's a young adult sci-fi book by Tomi Adeyemi. As you can tell by the cover, it looks stunning. And I started reading this actually at the beginning of this year, and this was gifted to me by a friend of mine that I worked with as a bookseller. So, and I haven't got a chance to finish reading it. One reason I couldn't put the book down at all, and I was going to Brazil for 6 months, so 5.5 months. So I didn't bring this book with me. So, but I will be getting back to reading this and finishing it this year. So I'm so excited. I have It Is the Dream Interpretation for Beginners by Diane Brandon. Understanding the Wisdom of Your Sleeping Mind. I bought this book back in 2020, and these are the types of books that I like pick up when I need it. So I haven't like fully read through all of this, but it's like a tip and helpful trick kind of book to help you understand your dreams and how they shape your reality. So it's a poetry book. I am such a poetry lover, and I will buy any kind of poetry to experiment and to improve my poetry as a poet. So this is Everyone by Anne Barn Grover, and as you can tell by the cover is stunning. I was captivated by the cover, and honestly this book, it's not one of my favorites, but I do love her choice of poetry and how she used it in this book. Author, so yeah, love that. So we have the next book. It's actually a gift, so I just put it here though, just because, but I read a few, I not skimmed through it. I haven't read this whole entire book, but I read some of it, and I love Adrienne Maree Brown's work. So if you're familiar with Adrienne Maree Brown, anything activist related around sexuality, discovering your sexuality in politics, and how that becomes an influence, and how you use pleasure as activism in all sorts of ways. So not just sexual, but other kinds of ways. So I love this book. It's actually a gift for a friend of mine, so this is the cover, and I love it so much. So modern looking and stunning, and I love it so much. Me canta. Okay, the book I have is Milk, Bile, and Honey by Nonzamo Dubi. And this book was gifted to me by one of my colleagues in South Africa who was a professor at the time, and now she's doing bigger and better things. She works at the University of Fort Hare, and she is from Zimbabwe. and she tells about the Zimbabwean experience in Rhodesia from her father's perspective. So if you are into learning about more about Zimbabwe and all the things, check this book out. I have not spoken to her since the beginning of this year, so I need to make a call with her after this. I finish filming this, but like to check in on her. But I love the cover choice, as you can see. The next book I have not gotten to read it yet, but it's by Jesmyn Ward and it's called Let Us Descend, and this is the cover, as you can see. Beautiful. Yeah, I am familiar with her work, Sing Unburied Sing. I have not gotten to this book. I love historical fiction, so this is also on my TBR list. Yeah. So the next book that I have is a poetry book by a local author here in Ohio, and it's called Black Queer Hoe by Brittany Black Rose Capri, and I love the cover. As you can tell, I'm such a cover girly. I love having good quality covers and covers that really show the writing in an authentic way. So this cover already spoke for itself for me, and then when I read it I was like, oh my gosh, this blew my mind. So such a good book. I'll show you like one of the poems. So oh my gosh, the first poem I lined down was White Daddy. It's a little long, but I'll read like a couple lines. My daddy white, well, my real daddy not actually white. My real daddy gone, not like left for cigarettes in 93 gone, but gone like he don't ever show up when he say he gonna show up gone. So, check it out. Telling you guys my books, this Mexican Lofi Beats playlist on YouTube. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Yo amo mexicanos. Okay, so A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. I love this book. It's a sci-fi. It's about robots, coming of age, if you're into that kind of stuff. I have a lot of like mix of different genres in here, as you can tell already, so I'm pretty much an explorer. This next book I have is called Triangulum. I'm still on my TBR list. I read a little bit of it like a year ago, but I haven't gotten back to it. I got it when I was in South Africa because I wanted to find a fiction book based on the South African experience, and this book talks about a young woman who is now a data scientist, but she is very clever in many ways when it comes into like the math field and everything like that. And she experiences these psychological like kind of thrillers in this book. So it's a mix, and it's set in Eastern Cape. So I love the cover of it. Anyways, like look at that, amazing. So, and it's by Masande Nchanga. So, I love South Africa. South Africa, I love you so much. By Viola Davis, called Finding Me. I also got this book in South Africa. This book has been on my TBR list for such a long time, and it's a memoir. And I love anything by Viola Davis when it comes to her acting. So when she was gonna come out with this book, like it was by far a book that I wanted to read. I have not gotten to it because there's so many books that come out, but I'm going to have this book done. I'm saying I'm gonna have these amount of books done, knowing there's like, I've been reading one book a month, but I will be getting to this. So I feel like this book will be read sometime in December. My mom is calling me right as I'm filming this. Okay, my Sprite. Okay, so we're on our last book of this row, and I have two copies of it. I have the advanced reader, and then I have the hard. I'm just gonna pull the hard one out. So this is the book, A Renaissance of Our Own by Rachel E. Cargle. If you're into manifesting, writing prompts, reimagining your life in a self-help book, this book is for you. She was actually my boss at when I worked at Elizabeth's Bookstore and Writing Center, which is a Black women-owned, queer-owned bookstore here in Akron, Ohio. So if you're looking for a local minority-owned bookstore, she has her memoir there, and this book is everything and more. I feel like it's what the community needs here in Ohio, and her telling her story. So I love this book, and I love the cover so much. It's so stunning. Yeah, and it's so cool, like when you meet people like her that's like an author that has like her own, was able to build her own business and do so many things. It's really inspiring, and it makes you see more that you have for yourself and more that you can do. So, all right, we're on to the next row. So the next row I have, this book is a classic. Oh my gosh, this is like I think this is like one of the first books I ever bought, and is The Four Agreements, wisdom book by Don Miguel Ruiz. And this book is a classico. Like, if you need some sort of guide that's not so big, for self-help and discovery and about life from a different perspective, this book is para você. Okay? Okay. Oh my gosh, that book, I lied. That book is not the first book I ever bought. This book is the first book I ever bought. I don't read manga like I used to anymore, which honestly, I'm in a new chapter. So doesn't mean that that chapter is forgotten, but I will come back to it eventually. Na verdade, não agora. But this book here is Death Note, and if you're familiar with the TV show on anime, like everything like that, this book is amazing. It has volumes 1 and 2, and it's the black edition. So this is what it looks like in the front, and here's this side. So good. Can you see it? Oh, right a bit. It's stunning. Look at that. Nossa. Gosh, so this book I got. It is called The Crusaders Hunt for the Sunblade. It is a graphic novel by Iramozi and Iachi, episode 1, and it's set in Nigeria, and it's about these siblings that have these certain powers, and they are guided to collect all of the belongings, historical belongings that belong to Nigeria that are in these museums, held captive. So I actually spoke with the author through Instagram, and I was able to get my hands on this book, and it's so good. He was such a nice, lovely human. So this is the cover of it, and it's stunning. And I'll show you the inside of it as well. I'll turn the page to 1. Look at that. Of different stories, and it's literary and arts magazine from my university that I graduated from, Kent State University. The writing department and arts department, specifically a part of the College of Arts and Sciences, they do this literary and arts magazine every month or a couple months, and I grabbed this one, and they're for free. So this one is the Brainchild one, and the cover is so nice and modern and nisk. And yeah, you can just see all the different stories. There's art pieces in here. It's such a cool collection, and called Immersed by Katie Herring, and it's by different students, so a mix of undergrad and graduate. And I'm trying to show the picture here, but as you can see, I'm so proud of myself and the collection I've been able to curate. It's crazy. This took 2 years, guys. Okay, so this is next, new poems by Lucille Clifton. If you don't know about Lucille Clifton, where are y'all hiding under rocks? Okay, I'm out of those caves and those corners, sheltered corners, because Lucille Clifton is a genius, and I can't even think of the first book I read by her. And it was a collection of poems. So when I read these poems too, called Next, the cover, and then this is her. Amazing. Check her out, you poets. Okay, so the next book I have, if you don't know about the Green Book movie, this book was inspired by that. And it's by Alvin Hall, Driving the Green Book, and it's a road trip through the living history of Black resistance, and how the Green Book specifically was a book for Black Americans after the end of the Civil War and reclaiming their freedoms. They needed a way to go to different places and not be what places would be acceptable for them to go into. So this book was created and it tells about that story. So I have the advanced reader copy. This is what happens when you work at a bookstore. You get so many advanced reader copies of books, and then it's just great, you know, because you get to read it before it even gets, you know, put on sale. You don't gotta buy, you know. So yeah, this is not the actual like cover, but this is what it looks like, and so pretty simple and plain, but really an amazing history. I think a lot of people should read about. And me being a traveler myself, it's just like, oh my goodness, when I found out about this like last year, I was like, oh, I love it. It's amazing. The histories you continue to learn as African Americans and about our contributions for ourselves, to elevate ourselves, and to be able to progress ourselves in the world. It's great. All right. So on into the next book. This book I have been continuously going back to when I need it. This book is called Return to Source, Unlock the Power of African-Centered Wellness by Araba Afori Akoya. She talks about what it means to be African, and specifically towards the African descent diaspora community, and how to implement African-centered wellness in your life and the importance of it, and how you are unlocking a certain power of authenticity within yourself, specifically coming from the African diaspora. So I love her perspective on it. Some of the stuff that she mentions in here I've already like done. So it's so fascinating to me that I'm already in this journey already. So, and there's so much to learn in this book as an African American. For me, living in the Western world and trying to implement African-centered wellness is something that's very important to me. So getting back to roots, getting back to discovery of self, discovery of your inner child, discovery of your soul, helping your soul. So this book is really good, and this is the cover. So I love this book. The Constant Struggle, Ferguson, Palestine, and the Foundations of a Movement. This book, I came upon it while I was at university and doing activism on campus and everything, and I'm just fascinated by Angela Davis's work in general. So I knew I needed to get this book. I read her previous works before, so this is the book. The next book I have is by the incomparable Bell Hooks, all about love. I need to read her other books. As you can tell, there is a bookmark in here. So I read this book and then I stopped reading it because each chapter in here you gotta pause and reflect. I'm the type of person I like to just try to finish reading something, but some things I have to pause and reflect on, and I'm gonna come back to this book anyways soon. I love you, Bell Hooks. But man, my brain, my mind, my whole mentality, my whole lifestyle gets challenged every time I read her work. And it is something that is not seen, that's not a negative, it's a positive, because it tells, it makes you reflect upon yourself and what your real values are, how you stand in the world, and how society can depict so many things about you already as soon as you come into Earth. So it's very heavy and deep, but it's very necessary. There's a lot of necessary conversations in this book. So I don't have anything negative. There's nothing negative to say. It's all positive things to say. It's just you're gonna have to do a lot of reflecting. Into mythology and myths, Greek mythology. I didn't read a whole lot of Greek mythology, but as soon as my friend who is a big writer and who teaches at a university here here in Ohio, he specifically talks of Afrofuturism. And I've seen this whole journey with Afrofuturism, which I got books on that already, so y'all will see later into that. But this one is the Dictionary of African Mythology, and I love this book so much. It's by Harold Shub. He collectively has knowledge around a lot of African storytelling. So went to a lot of countries in Africa, learned about their myths, learned all the locals, and it's a fascinating book, I must say. There's so many stories in here. I don't think I could get through all of them. It's not like you can get through all of them in one day, but every time you read one of them, you're like, oh my goodness, I've never heard a myth or a story tell like this. So it's very eye-opening, it helps your creative mind juices bubble and flow and get to powering. So this is the book. So the next book I have is The Miracle of Mindfulness. I mentioned this in the last video, and it's by Thich Nhat Hanh, and this is the book I was talking about. Oh my gosh, my bookmark is in here. This is the book. The next book I have is another poetry book. It's African American Poetry in Anthology from 1773 to 1927. It's edited by Joan R. Sherman. And this is it. Is the Mau Mau Rebellion. It's about the Mau Mau Rebellion. It's Mau Mau and Nationhood by E.S. Itieno Odhiambo and John Lonsdale, who are editors of the book. And it talks about the Mau Mau Rebellion in Kenya, and when the British were trying to take over nationhood and reclaiming our nations that were taken from us for resources and the impacts of that. And this Mau Mau Rebellion, I love reading about rebellions because it points out so many ways of oppression the oppressors put on people who are being oppressed in many different forms, and how that leads into a negative impact in the future development of these places. And you see it now in Kenya. So this is the book. I actually had an assignment on this for school, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna actually get the used, and I'm just gonna keep it because this book, I was really into the book. Oh my gosh, I'm such a history lover. Before I said I loved historical fiction, so you know, I love history. I love books, I love reading, I love learning, I love exploring books and stories, especially from all different parts of the world. I have, it is written in Portuguese, but I'll have like the actual like English name of this book, but it's by a Mexican author, and it's by Brenda Navarro. Cinzas na Boca. I love the cover. Look at that. Oh, I love it so much. The colors, it's just. But let's go into the next book. This next book I have is O Som do Rugido da Onça, by Micheline Veronsk, a Brazilian author. Romance book written in Portuguese. I got this book to help with my Brazilian Portuguese, so highly recommend getting books in the language you're learning that's not so big. Honestly, I did get a big book. I got a big book, which you will see later. The next book, it is so cute. Look at this little thing. Look at that, man. Look at this book is written from an Italian perspective, like Italian language translating to Portuguese. So yeah, this book was, I realized it was in Italian, and you know, it's just, you know, we're just gonna pick up on languages here, okay? No problema. Okay. O Templo by Mateus Barbacan, the Brazilian author. Poetry book. And that's not all the books I got while I was in Brazil. So we're not done yet. I was about to say that was all the books I got, but I was like, no, it's not all the books you got. Alright, so the next book I got in the beginning of the year, and I actually got to meet this author. It is Beside the Sickle Moon by Thayer Hussein, Palestinian author, sci-fi book. Look at that cover, a Palestinian story. And I'm so happy that I got to meet the author as well. Such a genuine soul, and to tell the Palestinian story in a way so profound. I loved it. I didn't get to finish this book yet. I plan on finishing it, another book on my TBR. So you will see reviews soon. I got, while I was in South Africa, I went to the Nelson Mandela Museum, and this shows you all of the different states on Eastern Cape here, and this is what it looks like in the front, Nelson Mandela, and you can see there's like just different, it's like a whole like pamphlet. So when I went to the Nelson Mandela Museum, I was just like mind blown. I was just like, oh my, I'm actually in this space, this area where he grew up. Like, I'm walking in it, and when I walked there, I was just like, man, this is like a whole nother feeling just being here. Like, I just got like goosebumps. I was just like, it was just an amazing, incredible feeling. Deepak Chopra, if you don't know about Deepak Chopra, oh my gosh, what are y'all doing? And we're on the third row, as you can see. This is The Path to Love. I haven't started reading this. And honestly, you know, I've been thinking about this book a lot to read it. This is what it looks like. And this is Deepak, the genius himself. Yeah, I'm not avoiding him. And I got this book at a used bookstore. I love used bookstores. Don't we all, Adara? Okay, so this book is another poetry book called Black Girl Call Home. Look at that. Amazing. I got it while I was working at the bookstore as part of our gift set. And so this book is How Long Until Black Future Month by N.K. Jemisin. I need to go back and reread this book. Which, you know, this book, like, you know, I think it just wasn't the right time for me to read it. So, The Book of Light. I got this book after I got the Death Note, and I needed some form of self-development, and I'm such a fan of Nia. She is Zimbabwean British Gemini from London, and yeah, how to illuminate your life with self-love. And I don't know if she's still selling this book, and it says on the back, you have so much light, plants grow toward you. Okay, period. And that's the back. So pretty. It so helped me in my early 20s. I have this called Under the Udala Trees by Chinelo Okparanta, a Nigerian author, and it is an LGBTQ plus story and the significance of the Udala trees in Nigeria. And this was the first book I got from Elizabeth's during the pandemic in 2020. So, a little backstory about it. Knowledge, it's a 1,000-year history of how classical ideas were lost and found by Violet Muller. That classical civilization history in a simple format. The next book I have is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. I need to finish this book. Actually, this book is so good, like, I'm able to, like, pick this up. Like, I remember a lot about this book. And it's a sci-fi book, and I love Japanese authors. As you can tell, I have, like, a range of authors on my list. These are my degree to its finest with the books. But, yeah, I need to get back to this book. It's by James Cagney. I was like, James Cagney. James Cagney, poems, collective poems. It's The Martian, the Saint of Loneliness, and this book is like the most amazing poetry book I've ever read in my life. Like, I've never read sci-fi poetry in a form like this. So I'm gonna spill a couple lines for you, okay? We're gonna open the book and then I'm just gonna spill. This poem is called Bullet Come. Dara can talk. This poem is called Bullet Gumbo. If bullets exploded into flowers, maybe my son's effigy of ashes and clay would be worth it. Every new parent handed a birth and death certificate stapled together. In some communities, this is health insurance. Mic drop. That's all I gotta say. Did I show you guys? I don't think I showed you guys the cover. But this cover in itself blew me away. I was like eyeing this book for a while, but this blew me away. Check James Cagney out. That's all I gotta say. Oh my goodness. So this book I got in, I got in 2023. I got in 2023 in Chicago visiting my cousin. And this is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Aweki Emezi. I love Aweki Emezi. This was the first romance book that I read where I actually was like, oh my, I want to love like that. And this is the cover, bro. I still think about this book to this day. Like I'll be looking at this book, I'll be like, girl, you breaking hearts over here, ain't you trying to make love? What is this? So this next book I don't read very often. It is a poetry book called All Along You Were Blooming by Morgan Harper Nichols. Thoughts for Boundless Living. And it's another collection of poetry. This cover is so pretty and it's like a kind of gift book, as you can see. Like a book for like a gift. As you can see, like it's just a great little. Okay, so this next book I have is by an Ethiopian Jew. The Power of One, the story of the man who opened the route to Israel through Sudan for the Ethiopian Jews by Fareli Yazizu Aklum. This tells his story as an Ethiopian Jew, and if you don't know about Ethiopian Jews, this story is pretty significant. It tells about the story between Israel and the Ethiopian Jews and people were coming, and their relationship today in the country. And it'll tell a lot about their story. So, in the country, as when it comes to the conflict going there, and how they are being used there. So, and a little bit of backstory. I actually got to go to Israel and Palestine, and I got to actually meet his son, the author's son, who was a part of producing, I think, like a series on this and all this. So it was a very fascinating experience, and I love hearing about, again, African diaspora is anywhere in the world. So it was pretty informing. The next book I have is The New Geography by How the Digital Revolution is Reshaping the American Landscape by Joelle Kotkin. Honestly, I really need to get to this book, back to this book. I think I read a little bit about it, but it helps you to understand the digital world, the advancement of anything digitalized, how it's going to influence our landscape, and how we look at geography overall. That I have on the shelf. We made it to the last book on the shelf. It's The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. Oh my goodness, I've heard so many great things about this book, but see, I still haven't gotten myself to get to this book. And I feel so sad that I haven't gotten to this book yet. But I will get to this book sooner or later. Don't you worry. Don't you worry, Robert Jones Jr. I will get to you. Alrighty, we are winding down the book collection for 2 years. Finishing right now. It's Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. February, I will be getting to that. This book I'm currently reading as well. It's My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Oteza Moshfegh. I'm like halfway through. Coming of age, satirical humor, dark humor. Go for it. Book I have is by Lelia Gonzalez, and it is Por un Feminismo Afro-Latino-Americano. So, this is the thick book that I got, you guys. Look at that. It's a thick book. But it's on a subject matter that I'm really interested in. I took a class on Afro-Latino culture and history at my university, which I was so happy to take. It was an online course, which I was like so bummed about, but I learned a lot in the class. Not as much as I would hope, but we're trying to learn new things about different cultures. So this book is very knowledgeable about specifically Afro-Latino-Americano culture in Brazil. So, and Lelia Gonzalez, if you're not familiar with her work, she is a Brazilian author, activist. Check her out. Check her out. Look up, baby. Oh my goodness. My voice doesn't usually sound like that. But here we go. This is I'm like, we're getting to the end, like my brain. Okay, so this is Madrigal's Magic Key to Spanish, and it is a creative and proven approach by Margarita Madrigal, and the original and oh my gosh, I keep laughing, bro. I keep laughing. Okay, and it's with original illustrations by Andy Warhol. Look at that, bro. I've been on this book, like, I've been learning my Spanish now for 2 weeks. I'm so proud of myself. Like, I'm genuinely so proud. Não acredito. Proud of myself. My relation with Spanish. Like, I love Spanish. So we're on the last book, you guys. Drum roll, bro. Drum roll. Drum roll, bro. Drum roll. It's not a thick book, but it's a non-fiction book. This book is Black Hair in a White World, edited by Tamika N. Ellington, with a foreword by Afia Mbelishaka. I got to meet the author actually, and she actually worked at my school in the fashion department, so it talks about black hair in the white world we live in, how it is, the history of it, black hair, how the social depiction of it, just the whole social context of black hair, and me having the type of hair that I have some thick hair, alrighty, thick hair, and my hair always dictates how I'm approached, how the jobs I get, everything, because it's part of my physical attribute. So I love her message through this book. I love the people that she worked with. I loved how she shined a light on so much about black hair that I didn't even know. I learned new things that I didn't know. So Tamika Ellington, local Ohio native as well. Check her out. And guys, we're done with the book collection. I hope you guys enjoyed my curation. I worked so hard on. I really put intention into what books I wanted to have on my shelves, and books I wanted to go back to, and books I wanted to recommend to other people, and the stories that I wanted to continue to bring along with me. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you. Beijos, beijos.